Epicureanism. What is Epicureanism? Have you heard of that? Epicureanism? What is Epicureanism? Somebody please respond. What is Epicureanism? Again, this is also coming from ancient Greek. This was not a much admired system of thought throughout the Middle Ages. Everybody was very repulsive or rejective. They were all rejecting this theory. Nobody was accepting this. Only in the Renaissance period it was revived. So Epicureanism is a system of philosophy based on the teachings of Epicurus. He founded that movement or that system of philosophy around 307 BC. So Epicurus was the person behind Epicureanism. And when you try to understand the movement, it teaches you pleasure is the greatest good. When you do something, it must earn some pleasure for you. So it presents pleasure as something good. The supreme good is pleasure. There is another system of thought which is known as hedonism. Hedonism comes from a Greek term which actually means pleasure. So hedonism tells you eat, drink and make merry. So enjoy your life and look nothing else. And sometimes in modern times it has been used in different ways, like a hedonism can help you to motivate somebody. So when I feel like I will get some kind of pleasure, I will be motivated to do something good. So there are different ways of understanding it. Psychological hedonism, that kind of new understanding is there. But it is not same as Epicureanism. But it was misunderstood for a long time as hedonism. Something that admires only that is giving you pleasure, only that which give you pleasure. But it was not exactly the way it was understood. The way to attain pleasure, as Epicurus suggests, is to live modestly, to aspire knowledge, to limit our desires. So if you are, like Buddha says, desire is the cause of all sorrows. So when your desires are unlimited, you will face sorrow. So you should have only limited desires. You should aspire for knowledge and you have to live a modest life. That is the way you have to attain pleasure. So that is Epicureanism. The sources of information on Epicureanism. One of them is a poem by Lucretius De Rerum Natura. It was found by Poggio Bracciolini in 1417. And they found it as a source of Epicureanism. So, Epicureanism teaches you that the greatest good is to seek modest pleasure. Modest pleasures in order to attain the state of tranquility. Freedom from fear. Freedom from fear is atraxia and the absence of bodily pain. That is the pleasure as he defines. He defines pleasure as the freedom from fear. The Greek term is atraxia, and the absence of bodily pain, aponia. Freedom from fear, so you are devoid of all kind of fear and you don't have any kind of bodily pain. Physical pain is not there. So if you are free from both these things, of atraxia and aponia, you can have that pleasure. That is the pleasure or joy of life. That is a state of tranquility according to Epicurus. So the combination of these states is held to constitute happiness in the highest form. So the pleasure he puts forward, or the concept of pleasure he presents, is not exactly what the hedonism puts forward. So that difference is there. So though it can be considered as a form of hedonism, it differs in its conception of happiness as the absence of pain and its advocacy for the simple life. Hedonism is not simply saying that pleasure is the absence of pain, or it doesn't, hedonism never tells you about a simple life. But Epicurus teaches, he defines happiness as the combination of the two states of atraxia and aponia, and he advocates a simple, modest life in order to lead a pleasant life. From the sources of information on Epicureanism, from the poetry of Lucretius, De Rerum Natura. And also there is another one, The Life of Epicurus, which was translated by Ambrogio Traversari. Ambrogio Traversari translated The Life of Epicurus, a book by Diogenes. When these books were found in the Renaissance period, it contributed to a more discriminating appraisal of Epicurean doctrine and the repudiation of the traditional prejudice against the person of Epicurus himself. So there was a prejudice about Epicurus throughout the medieval period. Like Epicureanism was considered as something contemptible, as atheism. So it was associated with contemptible atheism and hedonist dissipation. So seeking only pleasure, living only for pleasure was something contemptible. And also it was very materialistic and atheistic. For these reasons, the medieval world was rejecting Epicureanism, and the person of Epicurus himself was looked at with prejudice. So when these books were found, Life of Epicurus and the poetry De Rerum Natura, there was a different outlook of Epicurus that changed the outlook. And there is another author, Francesco Filelfo. He writes a letter. In that letter, he insists that Epicurus was not addicted to pleasure. There was a popular opinion that Epicurus was addicted to pleasure. So it's a comment about the person of Epicurus. And there is another work by Cosma Raimondi. Cosma Raimondi, Defensio Epicuri contra Stoicos Academicos et Peripathicos. Defense of Epicurus against Stoics, Academics and Peripatetics. Peripatetics is the Aristotelian school. Academics is the Platonic school. Stoics is the Stoic school. So all these people were criticizing Epicurus or his doctrines very vehemently. Cosma Raimondi, who was proposing Epicureanism in the Renaissance period, he was defending Epicurus against the other schools. So he says that the supreme good consists in pleasure both of mind and of the body. Supreme good consists in the pleasure of both mind and body. So that is the way Cosma Raimondi was saying. So according to Cosma Raimondi, pleasure was not something that is opposed to virtue. He says both are complementary. The pleasure is both guided and produced by virtue. So it is not two opposing forces, pleasure and virtue. When I enjoy my life, it is not that I cannot have virtues. Or when I am leading a virtuous life, I can also enjoy this life. There is an element of pleasure in virtue. So Epicurus says that pleasure is not opposed to virtue, but it is both guided and produced by virtue. So, and some of the humanists tried to harmonize, find a harmony between Epicurean doctrines and Christian doctrines. Lorenzo Valla, he wrote a treatise, De Voluptate, in 1431, and he again produced a rework edition of the same book in a different name, De Vero Fallacique Bono, on the true and false good. He tried to reconcile between the Christian doctrines and Stoic Epicurean doctrines. So he says that the ultimate good of the Stoics, that is the virtue practiced for its own sake, Valla opposed that of the Epicureans, represented by pleasure, on the grounds that pleasure comes closer to Christian happiness, which is superior to either pagan ideal. So he holds the idea that the pleasure of Epicurus is more close to Christian happiness, against the Stoic way of understanding good or happiness. So that is about Epicureanism. So these were the different threads of philosophy which actually viewed what we call Renaissance today. Okay, this changed the outlook of men. Means actually the different streams of philosophy, different systems, different schools of thought coming together, and scholars trying to find harmony between each other in different ways of thinking. they actually widened the scope of philosophy. They actually became a seedbed for the modern philosophy or modern science to develop. Okay. And another important thing that we are yet to see is the Renaissance humanism.